Imam Shirazi World Foundation writes to G20 Summit. The Imam Shirazi World Foundation wrote a letter to the G20 Summit, an international forum that brings together the world's leading industrialized and emerging economies to warn them of the autocratic powers that pose serious threats to the world's security. Further, the ISWF demanded the world leaders to reconsider their thought policies.
To the world leaders and participants of G20 Summit in Argentina. The G20 Summit of world leaders is hosted by Argentina in a critical time, when the world is facing many challenges that are entwined with a chain of crises on the local and international levels, as a result of which the fundamental constraints of humanity have been chipped and nations have faced threats. The size and the number of challenges that have inflicted the world as a whole, and some nations in particular, have been directly influenced by policies and agendas of developed and industrialized nations, which are in most part ignorant of their human, political, and economic instruments. It has been an unquestionable reality that current crises in the world are in one way or another the outcomes of policies by the few leading nations. Therefore, it is of urgent need for the world leading nations in the G20 Summit in 2018 to reconsider their policies and take into consideration the nature of the current crises in the world. It is no doubt that the sufferings of nations in the Middle East, Southern Asia, as well as Latin and African countries have spread wide to the so-called developed nations in the forms of phenomena such as mass immigration, terrorism, and unstable and imbalanced financial transactions. On the other hand, the decisions made by the world leaders participating in the G20 Summit are very influential on the conditions of countries that have suffered the collapse of their economies and blame the developed nations for their sufferings. Unfortunately, the policies adopted by the world leaders at the G20 Summit have so far fueled tensions and armed conflicts in the world, giving rise to the dictatorial regimes and causing the collapse of economies, as well as leaving damages on the environment, such as deforestation and destructive floods. Many developed countries have played direct or indirect roles in violations of human rights in many parts of the world, such as the case of crackdowns against the Muslim minority of Uyghurs in China. In Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, Shia have been discriminated against and oppressed systematically by the regimes in power, who are also supported by the superpowers for geopolitical and economic benefits. Anyways, Imam Shirazi World Foundation hopes that the current G20 Summit will lead to good results and decisions to extinguish the flames of tensions and wars in the world and put an end to the injustice that is being practiced against some minorities in some certain countries.